Hello, my loves, and welcome back to our. Okay, scratch that. Hello, my loves. I'm Abusii, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I've been quiet for like almost a week or so, and the reason why I didn't drop last week is because I just didn't feel okay. Like there was a lot going on. Nothing serious. It was just tests, and I had to study. I'm still currently studying. Writing my exam today, but I just didn't want to force things because there was this one day where I wanted to shoot, but then I just didn't feel like it, and I ended up not shooting. So apologies for that. But I hope you guys are good. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope the week has been treating you well. Um, it's a new, fresh week, and yeah, hey, that's all I can say. I'm not really feeling well today. I don't know why, but yeah, I just feel really down. I'm not sure why, but yeah. But I hope you guys are good. So, I posted last week, if I'm not mistaken, on Instagram that I'll be doing video about my spirituality, my spiritual journey, and my faith. And I just asked a few questions from you guys, and not many people participated. I think only two people asked me questions, and that's okay because I didn't want a lot of questions either way because it is just going to be like a personal like experience that I'll be sharing with you guys. So yeah, but there were two questions, so I'm first going to answer that, and then I'll dwell into the whole video. Okay, so the first question was, um, wait, let me think. How? I think it is something like how is your spiritual journey? How is your relationship with God? And how is it going so far? Something along those lines. Excuse me, the questions are in the phone, so I can't really. But to answer that, I'll just summarize because I'll dwell into it properly. My relationship with God is a steady development, if that makes sense. Like it's steady. Yeah, I haven't reached where I wanted to reach, you know, but yeah, it's getting there. And the next one was, how has the spiritual journey been, and are you spiritually inclined? Okay, I wouldn't say I am spiritually inclined. Reason being, referring to the first question, I haven't reached where I want to reach when it comes to my spirituality and faith. So another person would look at me and think, wow, wow, like your relationship with God sounds so, so good and so nice and so free. Um, well, to be honest, I've never had a difficult relationship with God. It's never been like, drastic, but there are some certain goals and certain things that I want to achieve in my spirituality that I haven't achieved, and there's a lot of them, and it's just a whole lot of you know trials and tribulations. So I wouldn't say I'm spiritually inclined, not as yet, not as yet. So yeah, I hope I answered you guys. And thank you for the questions. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it when people do participate in these questions that I always post. It really means a lot. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and let's get into the video. Okay, so here I've got my journal. Yeah. Um, in this book, I basically write anything and everything that I feel. I use it both as a journal and as a diary. It's working for me. Yeah, it works for me like that. If I need to journal something, or if I need to note down some important things, I write them down here. If I'm going to do my morning devotion, I do it in this book. I write it in this book. So yeah, it's like my girl. It's my girl. Okay, so before I open this book, some background. My relationship with God, at first, maybe like in grade 9 and 10, 19, 11. That's when, um, okay. So in grade 10, 11, that's when I sort of like, it sort of like came to my attention that I need to have some sort of relationship with God, you know. For the longest of time, it was just like, it's just like, yeah, there's God. I believe in God. I pray. And then that was it. There was nothing serious. There was no like personal relationship. I never took it that seriously to the point of actually wanting to build a relationship with God. But when I got to grade 11, if I'm not sure, I was in boarding school. And boarding school it was a lot. It was like a lot. But I remember there was a phase where I think it was grade 11 where there were these spiritual attacks in my grade and the lower grades. You know, kids were possessed with demons, all of that, you know, the Sangoma things, Amadlozi, and all of that, you know, these callings. So it was a lot happening. And you were forced to pray almost every single day. I remember, and one thing about me, one thing I noticed is that at that time, I was very weak when it comes to my spirituality, when it comes to my spiritual awareness. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I was very weak. Like, well, I've never been possessed with a demon, but it was very like easy for me to just go with the flow. You know, I would just go with the flow. I wouldn't be able to distinguish the type of no, there's something wrong, something not adding up. I wasn't spiritually intelligent like that at that time. So when all of these things happened, I was I was shook. I was intrigued, you know. I had never experienced something like that, like to that extent. Like kids would start screaming out of nowhere and we'd be forced to pray. They would start running and banging, being aggressive, being controlled and just like manipulated by these demons that they have, right? And that was in high school. And at some point I remember having a dream. Um, so so I am a person who dreams. Um, yeah, I just dream. You know, I believe my dreams are sort of like some sort of vision. I do not have much knowledge about that because for the most time I have looked at it in a different perspective, either than in my Christian perspective. You know, I've always looked at it in a perspective of a madlozi, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'll get into that. So in grade 11, I hope I'm not rambling. In grade 11, I remember having this dream. I had a dream of one of my grade mates' grandpa. So this is how it was. I was in my study room with everyone around. I was sitting right in the middle of the study room, and her grandma just appeared, you know, and I was the only person who could see him. Ne? No one else could see him, and he kept on conversing with me. I don't know what he was saying, but he was threatening me. Like he looked very furious and angry, and he was threatening me. I can't remember what he was saying, but it was so scary that I literally jolted from that dream. Like when I woke up, I was like, what the hell happened? I was so scared. And to me, at that time, I was like, oh, that's probably my ancestors telling me to go speak to this girl, tell her what what her grandmother's saying, you know, grandfather's saying. Um, yeah, so those dreams are like really hectic. But I had that dream. I spoke to the girl that um I was meant to speak to about the dream, and apparently it linked to her calling in some sort of way. It was just a lot. It was just a lot. But yeah, after that whole thing, that's when I knew I have to have a really personal relationship with God. That's when I knew that some way, somehow, my faith and my spirituality is not really good. So I had to fix some things, and I pray a lot. I pray for anything and everything. I try reading the Bible, but I still have difficulties understanding it. And I think which is why it led to me just giving up on reading the Bible like completely for a long some time. For the longest time, I wasn't reading the Bible. But yeah, that was there. And then I got to matric. I started slacking. I started praying only for like the important things in my life. And back then, it was academics and it was the current relationship I was in. And those two things really were like played a really big role like in my life. So they were literally the only things I prayed for. Besides those just simple prayers for short term things. Like maybe I'm going on a trip, I pray for us to have a safe trip, those kind of things. But like pray, like for really important things, these are the only things I prayed for: my relationship and my schoolwork. All right. And so I finished matric. I had to go to university. Now that's when it started. Yo, 2020 was a roller coaster for me. I couldn't find a school. I was up and down from January till May, I think, looking for a school. Now, can you imagine? Each and every single friend of mine, classmate, grade mate is in university, and I was the only one. And the closest people in my life, my closest friends, were all in university. It was just so much. I felt like I was so behind. I took an unintentional gap year. Yo, yo, it was so much. It was so much. Like even thinking about it, it was so much. I felt so lonely. I started drifting away from the closest people in my life, and literally, I was like lonely for the longest of time. At the same time, that current relationship I was in was like so hectic. It is consuming me in every particular way you can imagine. So you can imagine it's my relationship and it's me trying to grasp the fact that I'm behind. I'm not in uni. My life's on a pause. Ne? I wasn't doing anything. I was just at home. And like thanks to my uncle, um, thanks to my uncle, I started doing music. I won't even explain how, but I started doing music, and that sort of like got my mind off things. But what was sad was, in the long run, I didn't realize that I was actually depressed. For the most part, I was always at home. I would never leave the house. I'd only leave when I go to the shops or anything like that. I didn't want to socialize with people. Like And I didn't realize at that time. Like I really didn't realize at that time. Like it all came to me when I was about to, get into a new chapter. Like I was so stressed, and so there's all this gap year thing, me feeling left behind, me feeling lonely, like I had no one. Yes, I did have my close friends there, but it never really feels like that when you're going through this whole thing. It doesn't feel like that at all. And my past relationship, which was current at that time, consumed me in every way. Um, yeah, it was draining, and all of that drew me apart from God and my faith. I remember praying. I remember praying so much to an extent where I really felt like I was wasting my time. Like I'd have prayers where I'd just be like, God, then if really you are a living God, where are you? Like, why are all of these things happening in my life? Why is it just like um constant cycles of like, as I was saying, thankfully as people we go through seasons and we learn and we just reflect. So that was another thing that really contributed to the whole shift in my spirituality. And then 2022, that's when I really had this thing of just trying to build this relationship that I want with God. And it is a lot, like, it becomes so much for a person who is very inconsistent. Like, I'm a very inconsistent person. I'm not proud about it. um, and it's crazy because I'm most inconsistent about the most important things in my life. But I think it just goes back to a lot of things that I won't even go into depth with. But yes, I really wanted to build a relationship with God, and that's when I started last year. I started with routines and listening to sermons and doing morning devotions and trying to read the Bible. That was still a struggle. That was still a struggle. But I just try, and it was honestly just a back and forth kind of thing. I'd be consistent for a certain period of time, and then I'd just slack for the longest time, and then again I'd go back to it. And to be quite honest, um, so just to clarify, I left that relationship a long time ago. I left it, and after I left it, um, yo, I think most of the depression and everything, left with it, if I should say. And thank God for that. It wasn't an easy journey. It's not an easy journey, but through prayer and through and just having people, having really good people around you helps. It really does help. So last year was a really peaceful year, if I should say, judging from the previous years. It was one of the most peaceful years, most conscious years of my life, most conscious year of my life. I was made to be aware of a lot of things last year, and it's still happening this year. I learned a lot, you know. Um, God just has this thing of placing the most, just placing people in your life, and He knows that whenever He places this specific person in your life, He knows the impact they'll have in your life, and that's literally what kept me going. God placed such an important person in my life last year that I was like, wow, I was shook. I was shook. My life, this will sound so dramatic, but my life took a very weird turn and very like drastic turn I'd never thought it would take. I was made to become aware and conscious of my thoughts, feelings, and surroundings and beliefs, values in such a short period of time. And that is only because God placed a certain person in my life. And, all thanks to that, I am where I am today. So they played they are still playing a really important role in my life. They are one of the people that really kept me going. I'd spent so much time with them just talking about God, and it wouldn't even be like necessarily them teaching me about God. It would just be them just telling me about God, about their experience with God, about how much they know about God, about who God really is. And I learned every time I'd be amazed. I was shook at, hey, well, there's someone, hey, well, God really is this person they say that He is. It's very, it's very, it's very nice hearing someone speak to you about God on such a personal level. It's really, really nice. So, since last year, it's been just a continuous journey of praying, trying to dedicate whenever I can. Whenever I lose track, I always remind myself to get back on track, read the Bible whenever I remember, and listen to sermons. Um, you know, you know, and I just, I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but recently, um, I was told that in order for me, I'll just summarize on how I remember it. In order for me to to get to where I want to get emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, I need to seek God. I need to seek God. I need to know who God is. I need to know how much God means in my life. I need to find myself through Christ. And that just made so much sense. Honestly, that just made so much sense for me. And I am currently on a journey of seeking God and seeking God's way of life. And every day I do a devotion. I read the Bible, word of the day. I reflect. As much as I'm not good with these kind of things, I'm not good at all, but I am trying because I know how much God is so important in my life. I know how much I need God in my life. I know how my life would change if I really devoted each and every aspect of my life to God. I know how I'd be able to handle certain situations, and sometimes I wouldn't even be able to handle. I'd just give them to God, you know. I know I'll get reassurance. So I advise each and every one of you guys to really make time for God. Really make time for God. And He's always there. He's always waiting. He's always willing to welcome you back into his arms. I am not a professional. I am not a pastor or anything like that. I am still my rocky self trying to build this thing with God, but I know God is there. I know God listens. I know He hears our prayers. We just need to really devote ourselves and really find what's important. Never mind the social standards, never mind these other noises, you know, switch off all those other noises and just focus on this one thing. And trust me, it will make a huge difference in your life. I promise you, it'll make a difference in your life. So, yeah, okay, this didn't go how I planned it to go, but I hope you guys really do get insights um, from what I shared with you. I think for the most part, I shared my experience rather than um, yeah, yeah. But I just hope I spoke to someone. I hope someone out there finds this video and actually impacts them in, a good way. Yeah, a good way. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for always, checking up on me. Thank you for always watching my videos, liking my videos, sharing them. I really appreciate it. I hope and pray that each and every one of you stays blessed. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.